I just finished one of my favourite ever Football Manager saves. I took Catanzaro from Serie B to the top of the world. But the best part is that I did so only using players that came through my own youth intakes. It was a wild ride, one for the ages. In today's video, we're going to go behind the curtain a little bit. We're going to take a bit of a deep dive into the save to have a look at just how good were the players that came through. We'll have a look at their current abilities, potential abilities. We'll have a look at the players that I decided weren't good enough. We'll spend some time having a look at the best 11, have a look at the records that we broke, and we'll even simulate the save into the future for a little bit to see what happened to Catanzaro after the save was finished. If you enjoyed this series, I think you'll enjoy today's video. So let's dive in. Then here we are in the save file at the very end of the save. It's 2038. We had just, this is a big spoiler. If you've not watched the series, by the way, go and watch that before I reveal what just happened. Although I'm pretty sure most of you already know this. We've just won the Champions League. This was the game that has just taken place. It was this 4-1 win against Bayern Munich Champions League final. We restricted them to 0.3 XG. They even scored a goal off that as well, Evan Ferguson. But we were by far the best team in this, and their team was good. They had Evan Ferguson leading the line look in 2038. He is a current ability of 175. He scored 247 goals in 339 games for Bayern Munich. So we were up against a really good team there, and you'll notice that we're using a different skin for today's video, which is called the Trung skin, which is the Trung skin. I will link that actually in the description of today's video. The reason I've chosen to use this skin is that it tells us the current and potential ability of players on the profile screen. So we can actually dive in and see just how good were the players that we were using in this save. And we start with a bona fide legend of this save. It is Paolo Spinelli. He had a potential ability of 175. I actually think he may have been the highest. We will check out all of the players that we've got though. And he reached, by the end of the save, a current ability of 166. This guy was wild. This is going to be how we're going to do today's video. We're going to jump into the save at the end. We're going to have a look at the potential abilities and the current abilities. I feel like we want to see all of them. I also know that you want to see the save in a few years' time as well. So we will do a bit of a simulation until some of these players are ready to retire, because at this stage, Spinelli's 28. If we go 5 years in the future, he's 33 and coming towards the end of his career. And hopefully I'll have some more caps for Italy as well, and maybe even has played a World Cup, and we can see how Italy have done in that type of thing. But Spinelli became amazing. I was actually having a look at his stats. I didn't quite realize how many assists he got every single season. This past season, our Champions League winning season, he actually only got 9 assists in the league and 16 goals. But before that, look at this season here, 17 assists, 22 goals. This guy, as soon as we moved him to be like a dual striker with the other main man, Campani, he went to another level, didn't he? If you actually look at the goals, you can probably see it. The season that I moved him was, I think, this 29 goal season, and he just went to the stratosphere of how effective he was. Was it that season? I think it was the 29 goal season, wasn't it? And then from there, he was just very consistent with his goal scoring. Even though he only got 16 in the league this year, he did get 20 in all competitions. So it's still a good goal scoring return from our secondary striker, as you could probably call him. He actually could definitely play. He says he's an elite attacking midfielder, and I think that's because he's naturally around Deuter on the right hand side, although we didn't use him in that role, but we did use him as an inside forward, didn't we? Quite a lot. And perhaps this is why some of these attributes have developed in the way that they did. Anyway, Spinelli, we've started with a big hitter. I think I want to go through the team, the starting 11, and see how good all of them were, really. But I also want to provide a little bit of context as well. So the way that I want to do that is I want to go to a mid-table Italian team, mid-table Serie A team. So let's go with Brescia, who finished 10th, right in bang smack in mid-table. And I want to show you what their current abilities are, because then we can decide whether we've overachieved or underachieved, and we can give ourselves a bit more of a context scale for how good our players were. So their goalkeeper had a current ability of 130. Potential ability of 154. So Spinelli, obviously he's a striker, is a better player than this goalkeeper is for the mid-table team, Brescia. Now, if we compare that to Gargano played 59 times this season. He played 439 games for us. His current ability was 129, so he's slightly worse. He's a mid-table Serie A goalkeeper. Is that fair to say? I'm trying to work out what's a decent current ability for a player in a top league like this. And I think anything above 135 is probably good player, then you can become a really elite player when you get 150 plus is basically the way that you'd probably categorize it. Obviously, that can differ when it comes to specific attributes, and that's what the current ability is here. It's the distribution of those attributes, isn't it? But 129, I think you could almost definitely say Gargano is not very good. But he was so solid for us. And he played so many games, and we never got a goalkeeper that became better than Eduardo, did we? Look at that. It was actually some really good seasons in there too. A few seasons just tipping over the 7 average rating as well, which is always not to be scoffed at, I don't think. This season here, look, season before last, no, it wasn't our title winning season. This was our title winning season, wasn't it? We were 2035-36 champions. Although we did, of course, win it in that last year as well when we won the Champions League, didn't we? But this was the one where we were really going for it. Juventus was so good in this as well. Do you know what? I want to see. How good is Juventus's goalkeeper? Today's video, by the way, it might be a little bit all over the place. I'm looking at things that I find interesting, and I'm kind of hoping that you find them interesting as well. I did put out a post saying, what do you want me to look at as we do our bit of a deep dive for the video? And so I'm going to go off a few of those things and make sure I cover those things. But also, if you did want to get your hands on the save file for yourself, it is on my Patreon if you wanted to go and do your own deep dive, because I'm all over the place, which, you know what, I was going to apologize for, but that's just me. So there we go. Actually, before we look at the goalkeeper, Lee Doherty, who was constantly a thorn in our side. Yeah, he's outrageous. 185 current ability, and he's reached the very max look of his potential ability too. This guy was outrageous. 201 goals in 292 games for Juventus. Constantly getting top goal scorer, firing them to league titles so often. How good was their goalie then? Compare him to Gargano. Jamie, the Spanish keeper, 137. So it's not outrageously better. And he's what? 26. So he's right in his prime there. So he probably won't. Well, he might do, but he probably won't. He's a goalkeeper, so he might reach the 140. That's not massively better, is it? So that's probably why we've been able to cope with our goalie being as good as he is, because he's, without being great, he's not terrible. Now, next up, predictions. You don't have to write it. Don't have to write it as a comment, but in your head, do you remember how special we thought Campodelli was? How good or how high was his potential ability? Yeah, it's right up there, 182. Okay, so he reached, in that final season with us, he reached a current ability of 134, and he had the potential to go right to the very top. But we're talking, why have you got so many down arrows recently here? Look, that's a bit sad. Maybe because we finished the season, I'm not sure. He had the potential to go to the very top of the game, though. 182 potential ability. I just showed you how good that Lee Doherty was at 185. This guy was going to be that. And maybe when we do our simulation, because he's only 19, when we do our simulation, we can see just how far he can grow. 134 is very solid anyway. I'm going to actually compare it again. Let's go to Serie A. Let's go to Juventus, who finished second. How good was their right back, current ability-wise? Gabriel Torreira, also Spanish. Wow. I don't think we noticed that. Good Lord, is what I will say to that. Okay, he was better than Campodelli. 193. This is what we were up against. This is what we defeated. We overcame. We won 2 league titles against these in this save. That is outrageous. So good. I mean, how good's Tony at centre-back? 175. How good's their left-back, Jose Santos? 173. This is a serious football team. How good did Esteval get? 183. My word. And then Lee Doherty we saw. Keenan Yildiz. Even him at 170. Archie Gray, 170. Yeah, I can see why they won so many league titles. I think that makes our achievement even better. Like this year here, look, beating them by 2 points. Did we beat them as well? Yeah, we beat them at our place, 2-0. And then I guess, did we draw to them? No, we lost to them as well, did we? Yeah, we lost to them at away from home. So yeah, I think that makes it even more impressive. Oh, I need to look at somebody else as well. And actually, there was a comment saying, please have a look at Mark Guilly. I was constantly raving about him, wasn't I? He got 22 goals this year, and he was 163. Well, that's better than Spinelli, right? What did I say Spinelli was? Spinelli was, okay, Spinelli was 166. So he's not quite better. And Spinelli could still grow as well, although he's 28. He's probably not going to reach his 173, which is actually a bit disappointing. I mean, he still might, but he probably won't. I kind of was hoping that all of our players would have at least reached their max because of just how many games we got them to play. But perhaps that's not the case. I'm not quite sure. Let me know in the comments why that might have been the case. Why don't players reach their maximum potential? What is it that causes that? I'm hoping that Campodelli would have done, but obviously we're going to stop before the end of his career now. He was so important for us, though. He came and made us better. The defense I'm really interested in. There's a great comment left on that last video that said, it's so poetic that we won the Champions League with a back four where they were all pretty much centre-backs. And it has been such a problem position throughout the whole save, hadn't it? Ferruccio Rullo at 27 is a 1-4-5 defender, and he has reached his potential. Okay, that's kind of what I was hoping. I was hoping that our players would be right at the top, and the only thing restricting them was the fact that they had a slightly lower potential ability. And this is more like it for me. He did so well for us, didn't he? Considering he was one that I very much did write off, and it was because of his height. I just didn't see him becoming this good of a player. And that's even outside of him being short and not being the most aerially dominant. We got really lucky that Rollo wasn't great in the air, but then we got Bruno coming through who had that 20 jumping reach, who kind of made up for it to play in defensive midfield in front of him, didn't we? In another life, we could easily have swapped the two of them, but I didn't want to risk damaging their development by changing positions. What I'd like to do instead was to try and, if I thought they were special and could be used, not try and mess around with it too much to hopefully make them develop. And I guess we got the best out of Ferruccio Rullo that way. He was alongside Teresi. Teresi was not as good, but played a lot of games. That kind of figures. That makes sense. He maybe had the attributes that fit the match engine, but didn't quite have the overall ability that meant he was still viable. And at 1-3-1, that's kind of mid-table-ish, but we had enough stars, I think, in our team to make it work. He's one that, look, didn't get any Italian caps. Did Rullo ever get capped by Italy? He got 25 under 21 caps, so no is the answer to that. We need to keep an eye on that for all of the players, actually, don't we? Let me just jump ahead. We had the youngster coming through who I had really high hopes for, because looking at his potential ability in terms of stars, this guy should have been good. Pasquale Palmer, was he going to be... Okay, he did have a high potential. 1.63 potential and at 6'5". I was right to try and put a lot of time and effort into this guy. And I think when we see our simulation, maybe this guy becomes... Look, he played 28 times this season. And I feel vindicated in that choice. There's probably going to be some that I've really missed. What I will do is I will go to the... I'll go here, look, I'll show you. If we go transfer history and if we go to youth, we'll be able to see all of the players that come in every year. And we'll be able to have a quick little breeze through. And what I'll probably do is I'll check them. And then if there's some big misses on there, point them out. And if there's some that I just didn't sign or ones that we know that moved on, or if there's some that we just didn't develop, we can check if they had high potential abilities on here, because I'm sure there are some that we missed. But that's reminiscent of real life. I had to make decisions and I had to pick the ones that I was going to invest in, almost invest my time in, become good players or effective players. And in the end, again, I feel vindicated because it works out in the end, doesn't it? Here's a really interesting player, Pietro Matacera, who's 31 now. Not a new gen, is a Catanzaro youth graduate though. Played 450 games for us. He was actually better than I thought he was going to be. I thought his current ability was going to be lower than this. 141 is actually solid for Serie A, and he's reached the very top of his potential as well. And he stayed there at 31, which is quite cool to see. So, okay, I thought he was going to be worse than that, but fair play to Matacera. Here's an interesting one. Ennio Bruno did win the Next Gen Award, so you'd expect him to have a really high potential ability. Oh, it was 149. Interesting. That's not as high as I thought it was going to be. What's the Next Gen based on? Is it by their current ability? So maybe he had a high current ability early, but his potential ability was never quite as high. So I actually thought he was going to be way higher than that. And that maybe explains why in the comments, when he came through, a lot of people were writing him off and I was kind of going, no, he's going to be really good, which in the end is true. But I think it was because of where his current ability was. I don't know. Is that something that happens? Because he won the Next Gen Award. So either his potential ability has fallen off a cliff because of injuries, which happens, I think, rarely, or he never had a high potential ability. Either way, it doesn't matter because he was so effective for us. This guy with his 20 jumping reach scored so many goals for us, didn't he? 17 goals last season, 13 the year before. It was, 26 in all competitions? A massive part of why we won the league and the Champions League in that season. What a player. Slightly lower potential ability than I thought he was going to have. Again, he also reached the top of his potential though, didn't he? Gianluca Zilli. Is there a bigger legend in this save? I think maybe Campani. Who's your favourite player, by the way, in the comments down below? Who is your favourite player of this save? Because I think you can make arguments for so many. Zilli, Pasqualini, unsung, Spinelli, Campani, Thomas Evans, the Welshman, of course. Let's have a look at Zilli, where he's 28 now, the club captain. 146 current ability and potential ability. So again, he's sort of average. I reckon there's players in the Juventus squad that don't play who have this type of current ability, potential ability. Now, I'm just probably a little bit of a disclaimer here. This is I'm focusing in so much on the current ability numbers and potential abilities because we didn't know it throughout the whole save. And of course, the actual attributes and how they're spread are most important. And even beyond that, it's actually their performances on the pitch. It's actually the stats that they're generating rather than their attributes that are probably the most important. So I'm not saying this is the be all and the end all, but I just think it's a really interesting thing to kind of dive into and have a look at. 146 again, I thought it'd be way higher. It makes me feel even more proud of the achievements we managed to achieve because that's pretty average. Can I compare that? If I go to Serie A and go to Genoa, are the players that start for them better or around the same sort of area? This guy's 141. Which is quite similar actually. He starts in their midfield. Totaro, he's better starting for Genoa. So I think that again, it does underline it, doesn't it? DeSantis, he's also slightly better. Really good potential on him, although he's 29 at this stage. And then these are wingers and stuff. That's not midfielders. How good was Pio Esposito? Because he can become really good, can't he? Only 148 current ability. He's got a lot of goals for them, though. I know you can't see that. 160 goals he scored for Genoa in this save. Let's go back to our side. Let's finish these off. There are a few interesting ones. Here's Martucci. Now, Martucci, really interesting player in this save. He had that rubbish personality, low determination. It looked like he had really high potential, but it didn't look like he was developing at all. Then he shook off his bad personality a little bit through mentoring, a little bit about the squad's overall personality wearing off on him. Eventually, he started to look like he was actually developing. He got up to 142 current ability, and he does have a good potential ability of 165. That kind of tells the story to me. He became balanced personality. His determination went up to 10. What I'm also going to do in this video is go back to some of the key players, so players like Spinelli and Campani, and have a look at how they looked at the very beginning when they first came through the intake, so that we can kind of measure their growth a little bit as well. I feel like that would be quite interesting. Martucci, though, was special at 22. Will he ever reach the very top of this? He probably could still, couldn't he? He's got time to go and do that, but maybe, I reckon you'd imagine he'd probably get to about a 150 something, and he'd be a really good Serie A player at that stage, wouldn't he? Pasqualini. I always said he was rubbish, but he always delivered on the pitch. 15 goals, look. Was he rubbish? Yep. 124. He's reached the very top. He is a player that has stretched his ability to the very max. He wasn't naturally blessed with ability, but he was effective on the pitch, wasn't he? What a man, Luca Pasqualini. 124 potential, but he did it all and he won it all. Fair play to him now at 29. Spinelli, we've looked at already. Campani then. The main goal scorer of this team, Campani, only 26 still. So this guy could still get better or not. 157 was the top of his ability range. Interesting. I mean, he is an elite striker. That's a really good player, but he's not Spinelli levels. He's not Lee Doherty levels, is he? 157, which I think you may have noticed in his attributes. I don't think we saw loads of growth over the past few seasons. It felt like we played him loads, and we really did play him loads from quite early on. Look, he generates here in 2026-27. We play him 12 games in his first proper season. Because, of course, this would be in the March of this season. So we didn't play him until the first full season. Plays 12 games. Second season, he plays 25. And then he's straight in the team every year after that. And what a goal scoring record. 224 goals in 342 games. Outrageous from the man. Quite excited to see how he does in the next 5-year simulation that we're going to do in today's video as well. Fair play to Campani. Then really quickly, a few other players. Daniel Colombo was... I'll just go through them here, actually. If I just scroll through, we'll be able to see a few of them. Daniel Colombo was our backup goalie who could have been as good as Gargano, but would never have been better. So it's a good choice to have him as the backup. D'Angelo. Oh, he did have good potential. This makes a lot of sense as well, which is, I quite like it when it adds up. When things come together and they kind of add up. D'Angelo had 157 potential ability, That's why Chelsea bought him. And he's the one player that we actually bought back to the club, or brought back to the club on a free look. He went for 10 million. They didn't play him at all. They played 3 games. He played for them in 4 seasons. And then when he comes back, he's good for us. He was solid, but he was never going to reach his potential, was he? Because of those years where he just wasn't playing football. Such a shame, because that's clearly why they bought him, because of the high potential ability. He could have been a really, really good player, but that's kind of exactly what we expected of him, wasn't it? Donjia played right back a lot of games for us. 299 appearances, 126. Very average. De Sommer, he's new actually, only just come through. Does have, I thought maybe his potential would be a bit higher than that. 149 is good. His current ability is still quite low, but he is very new. How old is he now? He's only 17. So he was actually a pretty good prospect, wasn't he, though? Thomas Evans, only a 127. This guy played so many games for us. 318 appearances from Thomas Evans. From a man who was very sunburnt and very average. And even his attributes didn't really become a great player, did they? But fair play. We love Thomas Evans. Legend. Fricano was a young goalie who was not great. Martucci we've looked at. Mataseri we've looked at. Orfe. Okay. He's an example of, I think, could be quite effective. And he was really useful for us in the end. 20 goals and 73 appearances. He was only ever going to be a very bottom half Serie A player in terms of ability. But he's got good pace, good acceleration, good finishing. So in the engine, he was always going to be quite effective. He was a really good squad player for us, Luca Orfe. We used him as well. We looked at Parma before. Parisi, current ability down at 101, but I think that might be because he's not played any football for like 3 seasons. Yeah, basically what we've done to him is D'Angelo'd him, and he was only ever going to be okay anyway. But maybe he had a higher ability back when he was playing games, is probably what you'd expect. But in the end, we stopped playing with a right winger, and he stopped playing football matches, didn't he? Is kind of what happened. Pasqualini we looked at. Percenti, he was new. Okay, he did have good potential. He was our newest hope, wasn't he? I don't know why he had the number 3, but 18 years old, good value on him. He actually had 162 potential ability. 114 as well at 18 means he probably would have been growing quite nicely as well. We haven't played loads. It was harder to develop players at this stage because we had our set team and it was harder to bring people in. Like, to play Percenti meant not playing Martucci, and we still needed to develop Martucci still at this stage. So it was a bit of a weird one. We might have ended up ruining him if we didn't complete the save before now, because I wonder if I would have held him back by not being able to play him as many games as he maybe needed. Anyway, right now, that doesn't really matter so much, does it? Raimondi, I feel like he was rubbish. He was actually better than... Okay, no, he wasn't. Is he quite old? He's only 26. This just shows he just didn't play enough football. I thought he was rubbish because he had low potential ability. His potential would have made him as good as Donjia. Now, Donjia played loads of games. If I just go back to Donjia, he played loads of games. He would have been better than him. But I just never gave Raimondi the games because I gave Donjia the games, and Donjia got his current ability up quicker, which is interesting to see because the way you have to play that off is as soon as he's a year younger. So as soon as Raimondi came in, I should have stopped playing Donjia and played Raimondi. But all of the progress that we'd made on Donjia meant that Raimondi would have had to spend a year or 2 to catch up with him and then would have gone slightly above him. But then by that point, another right back would have come through and then Campidelli would be here. So do you see how the challenge almost means that sometimes you just have to invest in a player and hope that he's going to be the best for a while, unless a really special player comes in like Campidelli, and that means you dislodge your player that's gained, like, I don't know, it's hard to explain. I do hope that you're kind of getting the point that I'm trying to make there. Let's continue going through. I'm loving this, by the way. It's really, really interesting. 98 current ability. He was rubbish, but could have been better. Dario Roma had a really good potential ability. And I think he would have been one that wouldn't have reached it either because... No, do you know what? Maybe he would have done. Because actually, quite quickly after this point, Pasqualini would have stopped playing. And we would have seen, actually, without knowing the numbers, but we would have seen that his current ability, Pasqualini would have been on the way down at 29, and Roma's would have been on the way up, and we would have had that time where he would have overtaken him and become the starter, you'd imagine. I wonder if he'd ever been able to score as many goals or contribute as much as Pasqualini did. Probably not, but this is why for a while Dario Roma was listed as our hot prospect, wasn't he? So 152 for him. Rossini, Another one that had okay potential. We were getting really good players through our intakes, weren't we? I kind of wrote him off a little bit, although I did try to force him into the team a little bit. Look, he played 16 games to try and see if we could develop him in this season here. And he didn't really grow that quickly, which made me think his potential ability was lower. He could have been good, but how do you get him in the team without sacrificing without sacrificing results, basically, isn't it? Because as soon as you do that, you lose more games, but you might have got a player who ended up being as good as Rollo, that better than Rollo. 145 potential ability. He's got a better potential ability than Rollo, who played all of those games for us, but it's so hard to try and manage it all and balance everything. That is the beauty of a save like this, I think. Teresi we looked at before. Torti played a lot of games for us. 127, very average. 360 games, though, from Paolo Torti. Outrageous, really. Barilli, new player that came in. I thought his potential was higher than that. I was thinking about trying to get him into the team at some point, but it would have been 138 would really not have been that useful. Bazzano, I thought he was quite good because his current ability got, well, it got quite high. This is through loans. So he had a couple of loans that did almost work, but his overall potential wasn't that high. So he probably never would have been in the team properly. He played 15 games all off the bench in that season there, but that was after he'd been on loan at Sosha and done well, and Pontedera before that and done well there. And that's what's taken him to a 120 current ability where he was in and around the squad sort of level. Interesting. Maybe I could have used loans a little bit better in this save perhaps, but I'm quite happy still with what I've managed to do. Balancing everything, I'm quite proud of what we managed to achieve. Begovic, young goalie, wasn't ever going to be great. Bracaglia, another one that could have been good, but we were never going to be able to give him the game time, I don't think. And it wasn't like he was special for me to know that I had to give him the game time. The 139 on him. And then Bruno we looked at, Campani we looked at. I'm really shocked that Campani's isn't as high as some of the others. I thought it'd be higher than 157. It's cool to see him reach the very top of it though, but I thought it'd be higher than that. Then Campitelli, and I think that might be it now. We've seen everybody in the squad. This is good fun. I could do this for hours, by the way. I'm going to try and keep it under an hour for today's video. One thing I did want to look at now is the best 11 in the history. Just to read these lovely, lovely numbers here and just get nostalgic about them, really. We've got Gargano, Dongia, who played the most games at right back, 326, 483 games. These are league games as well, aren't they? For Gargano. Teresi, 311. Evans, 324. That's weird. Rollo's not in the overall best 11. And I assume it's because of his average rating. Because Teresi and Evans are both in there. Now, they've both, all of them, they played a lot of games. They became our defence, didn't they? Matasera, of course. 481. The highest appearance maker is Gargano, the keeper, 483. And we've established that he's very average. Fair play to him, though. No Italian caps for him, 3 under 21s. Now, Thomas Evans, by the way, just quickly, got so many caps for Wales. 62 caps for Wales, 1 goal. What a man he was. I didn't look at the caps for Italy all that much, did I? Maybe we'll look at those in a second. Matasera didn't play, I don't think. 2 under 21 caps for him. Teresi didn't play, we've looked at. Dongia? Under 23 caps for him. Bruno, did he play for Italy? Yeah, he did. 7 caps for Bruno after his 263 games for us. 72 goals from defensive mid, by the way. It's outrageous, isn't it? Zilli got 47. Zilli did play for Italy. No, he didn't. Zilli didn't play for Italy. 22 under 21 caps, and that's it. That is a travesty. That is a disgrace. That makes me want to become Italy manager on the spot and give him a cap, but we're not doing that. We're not doing that. Torti gets in the overall best 11. 372 games. Who's that ahead of? I suppose it's ahead of, because it's a 4-3-3, perhaps it's ahead of D'Angelo, then Martucci maybe more recently. Gone with the 4-3-3 that we played for a few seasons before we changed to this, basically, this is our last season's best 11 look, isn't it? Interesting though that he's in there. Spinelli, 162 goals. He's got the 7 average rating as well. Spinelli does get caps. 21 caps for him, 5 goals for Italy. Pasqualini, no caps, I assume. Only under 18 level for him. So many goals. 133 goals from Pasqualini. Campani, goal scoring record. Outrageously good. Do you know what another travesty is? Is the fact that Campani's only got 5 caps for Italy. And he's not scored a goal either. He needs to get his Italy goal. He's got time. He's only 26, but that's ridiculous. Look at that goal scoring record to not be getting in the national team. You'd be really upset, wouldn't you? Fulignati is our backup keeper. What happened to him? He barely played. 147 times. Did I even play him at all? I don't even know if I did. I'm pretty sure I brought Gargano in pretty much immediately, didn't I? Since he was here. I think so anyway. Then Rollo, of course, there. Scognamillo. Van der Putter. What a man he was. You forget about him, but he was so important, wasn't he? 67 goals. He actually became the Belgium under-19s manager, which is weird. Which is just a bit weird, actually, isn't it? But fair play to him. Then D'Angelo, who went away, came back. Petrosione. It's like a bad smell we couldn't get rid of, wasn't he? He's now Hellas Verona under-20s. He played so many games for us. And then he could not run, but he was still here. And then Yamello. Vital Yamello in getting us out of Serie B in winning or getting us promoted in that first season with his goals, wasn't he? I love it. Let's actually, I mean, I love clicking this just to see, but most of them, we know where they are. They're all here. But it's like a few of them are not. But here, look, although 3 members of that team are now retired, the rest continue to be involved in football. All of these guys still at the club. The only ones really are Van der Putter, Petrosione, and then the retired players who aren't there. Look, right, lovely stuff. What we're going to do now is very quickly, I wanted to show you because somebody asked, the finances. We ended up on £117 million. And if you remember back at the very beginning, we were always around 30 million, I seem to remember, as our overall balance. Although it does go up at the end of the season and things like that. But we're always around 30 million. We're pretty flush with money. We became a worldwide, I don't think, can you see it? Yeah, we became a worldwide reputation, maxed out the reputation. We did at one point max out the youth facilities and the training facilities and get everything to perfect, but they're really temperamental. They always drop down by half a star, but then you ask for them again. But there was one point where we hit maximum, I'm pretty sure of it, which is of course really cool, isn't it? A lot of you asking about the balance. Money was never a problem. If you have a look at our transfers as well, we have got 79 million to go and spend, and we've got, I mean, if I put it all into wage budget, it's £3 million per week in wages that we could still use. And a lot of you asking about the contracts, I had them on huge contracts because we could afford to spend this money. Campani, look, 230,000 a week. Loads of them. If I go to contracts here, you can see this is the way that I was doing it. I was giving them the 5-year contracts with the option to extend it by 3 years. So at this point here, we would have had a couple of players going out of contract, but I can just extend them by 3 years to make them stay. So Spinelli, for example, I could just go and trigger his contract extension, and then suddenly he's got a contract that runs until 2043 on really decent money as well. So that's kind of how I was doing the contracts. The other thing that people were asking for was there any players that we lost that went on to have good careers? Now, most of the time, this is on youth. I'm just going to start here. These are the players that did leave the club. Now, most of them, we talked about them, and I think we made the right decision on most of them. The one that I was wondering if he was one that got away was Andrea Longo. Now, we sold him to Inter for £6.75 million, rising to £7.75 million. How good was Longo? He wasn't that good. So he wasn't, okay, that makes me feel a lot better. He wasn't, I mean, did they play? He's actually ended up at Estoril Praia. Is that on loan, or is he actually just left and gone there? He's on loan. They've loaned him out, look, having not played him. So he might have ended up better, but they just didn't play him in enough games, did they? But we got okay money for him. The other ones that left, I just don't think they were going to be that good. Like Picardo left. He was not very good. There's a few other ones as well. These were all loans. Raffaele, how good was Raffaele back at the start? He was rubbish. Actually, I don't know. Maybe this is now because he's now 32, but he wasn't ever great, I don't think, Raffaele, rather than just saying he's rubbish. Anyone down here? That Emerson guy, he went to Cruzeiro. Was he ever good? Not according to his potential ability on there anyway. And the other ones, I don't think so. De Rosa, he's actually retired. We did lose De Vita, actually. Milan took De Vita from us, and he was about to be in our squad. I put him, when I did my squad audit, he was in the first team squad. He wasn't great either, and he's ended up at Pisa. So again, we've kind of got that one right. I don't think there's many players that left that I got wrong. The thing that I think potentially is the players that I just didn't develop enough, that had maybe high potential that I just didn't develop enough. Like, who's in our under 18s now that might be quite good? I mean, actually, that's hard to tell because actually these guys I may still go and develop. There's probably like 19-year-olds that might have been okay. Beyond Mir, no, he was rubbish as well. How good were the ones that just came through? Luis Videla, 155. We're going to make him a defensive midfielder, weren't we? He looks good. Genchi at right back, 153. I've just looked at Videla. Manuel Villa, 146. What about the tall strikers? Yeah, this guy, Davide Rana, 155. Again, that is probably the next crop of first team players, isn't it? What about in the under 20s? Is there anyone here? How good was Albanese going to be? Wow. Okay, he's actually almost ready for first team football as well. I don't think I quite expected him to be that good, but he could have been our next striker, definitely, Albanese. We put him on loan at Cracovia and didn't score a goal. I didn't think he was very good because of that, but 120 current ability isn't far off being able to give him proper game time. And he's got good pace, acceleration, finishing, actually, Albanese as well. And then, yeah, there's probably some. If I go to here and go to youth and ones that we kind of, in previous seasons, didn't sign, there probably is some, but it's really difficult to tell just how good they would have been. So let's go to not the most recent ones, because those ones have just come in now. We've looked at them, but maybe the season before here, look, is there players, without going through all of them, it's hard to tell, but Alexander Tomic, I don't think we signed. There's a miss. He is a goalkeeper that had a higher potential ability than Gargano. He's ended up at RB Salzburg, their youth academy, and he's got 149 potential ability, and I didn't sign him. So maybe that is a miss. 139 here. He is in our under 18s. Pier Paolo Bencivenga. I'm trying to look for names that I don't recognize because those are probably the ones that I didn't sign. Koulibaly. We did sign him. What about before that? Was there anyone that I don't recognize that would have been really good? I found a centre-back called Rodrigo who would have been really good, and Juventus picked him up. I don't remember seeing him, but apparently this guy came through our youth intake. And then I think if you go on milestones, it shows... Does it show on there? No, it doesn't actually say it on there. But apparently this guy came through and we didn't sign him. I don't remember him though, but I surely would have done because he's 6'3". But he would have been a good defender for us as well, potentially. But it's hard to tell really. And overall, like I say, that's really happy with what we did manage to achieve. So I love the picks we made and the players that we chose. They did good for us, didn't they? What I'm going to go and do now is I'm going to go and just check Zilli, Spinelli, Campani. I think we'll just go with those three. I just want to go and have a look at them on their intake day so that we can compare it to what they became, just so we can compare it to what they look like today. And I'll do a screenshot of both and we can almost do a bit of a side-by-side of the three of them. Maybe if we just focus on those three, I feel like that's a good way of doing this. Let's go back in time and have a look at Baby Zilli, Spinelli and Campani. Okay, so we're back here in 2025 and this is so nostalgic because this is when we got our intake. It was season 2's intake. And just look at the players. Look at some of the players that we got through this intake. The star man was Zilli, who of course became our club captain. Here is Zilli on day one. He had a current ability of 70 with his potential ability of 146. And then this was his transformation. He became such a solid player for us, didn't he? And I came back to this point because this was when he came through, our captain. Oh, our captain. But then I also realised that in this intake, we also had D'Angelo, Parisi, Torti, and Pasqualini, as well as some other no names who did nothing for us. I wonder if they ever became anything. I don't think they did. I've really tried to check. I know that you wanted to see which players I missed, but it's really hard to follow them. Most of the time, if I didn't sign them, nothing happened with their career because they didn't develop enough to a point where another team signed them. So many of them just retired, which I'm sure was the case for players like Raggi and Bendinelli, for example. But here was Parisi on day one, and then we had Torti. Torti played so many games for us in the end, didn't he? He reached his maximum of 127, didn't he, as well? D'Angelo, who we were quite excited about before Chelsea bought him. You can see actually at this point as well, in the save, I've made a bid for their, I've offered them their contracts. Weirdly proud. It's like going and looking at old school photos of your children. I don't actually know what that's like, but I can imagine it's just like this. Actually, right at this point, look, I hadn't actually offered a contract to Torti or to Pasqualini. I obviously did afterwards, which was lucky, but I clearly went for the top three and was like, gave them a contract immediately and then waited on the other ones. So what could have been a real miss there for two. But I imagine we didn't sign Pasqualini. We wouldn't have had all of those super important goals. We wouldn't have had that Champions League final contribution either, of course. Let's go now a few seasons into the future and have a look at the intakes where we got Spinelli and Campani. Let's go Spinelli first. Okay, here we are then 1 year later. I hadn't actually realised. It was only 1 year later that we got Spinelli through our youth intake. We actually did get very, very lucky. And it was hard to tell that we were getting so lucky because every year was a golden generation like this, wasn't it? But we got Zilli, as well as those other players, Torti, etc., and Pasqualini. And then the year after, we got Rollo, Spinelli, and Teresi all coming through as well. Rollo, I didn't realise was in the same intake as Spinelli, and we of course signed both of them. Actually here we had Gonella as the goalkeeper, who never really amounted to anything. Was he a miss? What was his potential when we signed him? Okay, it's 139 and he was 6'6". He probably should have become our first choice goalkeeper. However, it's that old thing that Gargano by this point would have had game time and would have had a much higher current ability. And to get there, you would have had to sacrifice a lot for what would have been a small upgrade, really. What was Gargano's in the end? Was it one? It was 129, I think it was. So it's not that much of an upgrade, but probably should have done. He's also 6'6". So there's maybe a miss there, actually. Gonella, a bit of a regret not to have developed him and put in time and effort into developing him, maybe. Here's Rollo, and we won't do the little bit of editing to show you how he developed, but you kind of can tell, can't you? This is where I wrote him off completely because he was 5'9", and then as soon as he grew to 5'10", I was like, do you know what? He'll make it. I think he got to 8 jumping reach as well, didn't he? But here he is as a baby at 15 years old, and then Spinelli with his 173 potential ability. We didn't quite know it at the time, but we did kind of know he was special, didn't we? And I'm glad that we went with that. He actually had like quite low attributes for pace and acceleration, but he did just more than make up for it in other places. If you just look at just for a poacher here, which we actually ended up using him quite a lot as, didn't we, in the end? We used him on the right-hand side, and maybe these attributes developed because of that. But then we used him as a poacher alongside Campani with his 14 finishing. What a player he became to us. He actually became this good. It's beautiful to see. Absolutely beautiful to see. Let's go and visit baby Campani now. Now, really quickly, now this is a different type of peek behind the curtain. I was actually looking for the year that Campani came through, and I went 2 seasons in the future to see if it was this intake. It wasn't, but this was a golden generation. I feel like it's really eye-opening because I'm looking at these players and thinking, none of these players made it at the club. And I'm struggling to remember a lot of them, but they look like they've got really high potential. And I'm like, why didn't they make it? Then you click them, 135 potential ability. Like, they're not special. And I think this is why they didn't make it, even though they've got, like, this guy's got 1.5 stars for useful for the senior team right now. Malai, 134 potential. Gaetano, 116. Look, and he's in the elite talents. This is why those golden generations often weren't actually. This guy's an elite talent with 96 potential ability. This is why. This is just, I think it's really interesting to see how little you can actually trust it. You have to just look for the players that you think look special. This guy as well, in the elite talents with 86 potential ability. It's really quite rubbish, isn't it? 126 there, a little bit better. I wonder if some of these in the top talents are actually better than the elite talent ones. Angelo Screaming. I mean, he is better than some of them. He's not great, though. 103. Bartolini, 82. This was a really rubbish intake, but it was, if you look at it on paper, it looks like it's amazing. Anyway, just wanted to show you that because I felt like it was really interesting. I'm going to go and continue looking for the day that Campani joined. Okay, here we are then with Agnello Campani's intake day. And also, just looking through the players that also came through, we also had a load of other elite talents, none of which made it. I sold De Vita. Emerson we saw ended up in Brazil. There was also, though, in the top talents, Raimondi and Dongia and Thomas Evans, the Welsh wizard, Thomas Evans, who doesn't look like he's up to much there, but he also was a lot less sunburnt when we first got him, although he became this sunburnt later on, didn't he? And yeah, Dongia and Raimondi also in this intake who did make it, compared to these guys at the top here that didn't make it, but Campani's the main one. Here he is on his intake day, 6'5", promising striker. I forgot that he had a mercenary personality, but we did talk about that, didn't we? And how that's not actually that bad a thing. I can see below me here that he's apparently got the same potential as Gabriel Raffelli, who obviously wasn't all actually that good, was he? He's got 157 potential, and this is his transformation. Yeah, he became the main man, the goal scorer, didn't he? GG's to Agnello Campani. Right now, though, now that we've gone back in time, it's time to go forward in time. I've simulated 5 seasons. I've also given all of the responsibilities over to the staff, and I've tried to make sure that we don't sign any players so that hopefully this still continues. 5 seasons on, though, will the team be able to build on that Champions League success, or without me in charge, will they actually become rubbish again? Let's go and find out. Okay, and welcome to the future, 2043. And we've got ourselves, I went 5 years because I actually thought 10 years, most of them would have retired and we wouldn't have actually been able to see a lot of the players. I've gone to the end of the careers of a couple of our players. Mainly, if you think about Matasera is now 36, Gargano's 35, Zilly's 33, D'Angelo's 34. We've kind of got to the end point of these careers. Now, obviously, you could go and see Campani go a few more years, Spinelli a couple more years as well. And again, I'll put this save file on the Patreon. If you did want to go and play with this and continue and finish things off, maybe go and rebuild again after this point, feel free to go and do so because I'd appreciate your support on the Patreon as well. Of course, thank you to the current Claytron members. I appreciate you guys. This, though, is how the squad is looking in 2043. Gargano is still here. The Serie A looks like this. They finished second. Oh, I've just had a look over here. We won 2 titles, didn't we? No, actually, oh, look. They've been pretty successful. This was our final season. It was the second of our Serie A titles. The year after, the first year of the simulation, Milan won it. Then we won it again. Then Juventus won it. Then we won it again. And then this most recent season, Milan have won the title. It was by 3 points. Pretty close. It's a good season, 87. Oh my word, I've just seen. Milan beat Catanzaro on the final day to win it. It would have been exactly even. It could have gone could it have gone either way? Is it they've got the better goal difference, or is it head to head? I'm not sure. It was very close, and it may have come down to a final game where Milan won 2-0 here, look. And this was the team. Campani, Spinelli, Martucci, Pasqualini still playing, Zilly, Bruno. There's the new right back, Genci, De Mayo, he's young as well. Palmer starting is fun. Teresi starting left back, and then Colombo in goal. New goalie. Colombo's become the first choice keeper. He is very similar in ability to Gargano, but has Gargano fallen off a bit of a cliff now that he's old? He may have done, actually. Gargano's 35. Yeah, his current ability is down to 114, which is why we've seen a changing of the guard there. He's now played 534 games, by the way. You can just about see it, this bottom right-hand corner. That is outrageous. So, let's just have a quick little flick through those seasons. Second place, the year before that, they won the league 94 points. That's very cool. Year before that, 5th, Europa League. Oh, actually, being in the Europa League, they may have done okay with it, though. Maybe a trophy, maybe. Year before that, they won it, 89 points. Oh, my word. Joint. Oh, my God. Did that come down to a... How did that get decided? Position playoffs. Oh, there was a playoff match with Juventus for first. And they won it 6-3. I can't see it anymore. Is that over 2 legs, then? They've... Oh, imagine... For the league title, we beat Juventus over 2 legs. I wish I could see the goal scorers for that game, but that is outrageous. 6-3, so 2-1 in the second leg. So 4-1 in the first? No, 4-2 in the first leg, and then 2-1 in the second leg. That is incredible. You love to see it. And then the year before that was that. If I go back another year, instead of doing this here, was that the year that we finished on? No, they finished 3rd in the first year of the simulation. 85 points. Milan got 104 points. That is crazy. I want to see, though, Champions League results. Let's go and see those 2. We have gone out this most recent season to Inter in the round of 16. Before that, though, did we win it? No. Barcelona, Real Madrid, Arsenal, Porto, Milan. Another Italian team's gone and won it as well. Milan clearly became quite good, didn't they? So Porto the year before... Can I see how well we did then in each season? This year we went out in the round of 16. Year before we were in the Europa League and went out in the round of 16. That's a bit disappointing. To Villa. Beat them away. Lost to them at home 4-1. That's not very good, is it? Year before that, back in the Champions League? Yes. We went out to Barcelona in the round of 16. Beat them 3-2. Lost to them 2-0. Yeah, we've not been great in the Champions League. Year before that, round of 16, Milan, losing to another Italian team. Year before that was this. No, this wasn't us. This was the first year of the simulation. We went out to No, did we go? No, we did. We went out to Arsenal, lost 2-0, beat them 2-1. And I think the year before that is when we won it, yeah, with against Bayern Munich in the final. Okay, so not great in the European competitions. Let me just have a look at some of these players and what they became then. Some of the big names. Gargano, we saw him before. Let's scroll down this list and just see. Palmer, how good did he become? Because we had high hopes for him. He became good. What I will say is his physicals didn't become great. Do you remember all along I was like, if his physicals become good, he becomes an amazing player. Still only 11 acceleration, 13 pace. Really good marking technique and mentals. Really good current ability. 6'5", but can jump. But he's not. He's a bit slow still, isn't he? That's a shame. He could have been really good. Did he get Italy caps? He got, 10 caps for Italy. Oh, Zilly. Tell me Zilly got an Italy cap. He didn't. He didn't. That's such a shame. Have we had a World Cup, by the way? It's 2043. 2042, we would have had I know I'm all over the place again here. We would have had an international competition. They're in the UEFA Nations League final. How did they do in the last... There was World Cup in 2042. They lost in the World Cup second round. Ennio Bruno scored. That's our player. Campani scored. That's our player. But they lost to Uruguay 3-1. So... No, they didn't become world champions with our players, which is a shame. How did they do in the Euros before that? They lost in the quarterfinals in 2040. Campani did score a penalty, look, but it wasn't enough. They lost to England in the quarterfinals. And then before that would have been 2038, World Cup round of 16. And I'm not even seeing our players in here because this is a while ago now. It's another, it was the end of our actual... where we were in the actual save, isn't it, at that point? That's a shame. Zilly, no caps. That's why he didn't win it. Clearly, it's why they didn't win it. Oh, how good did Campodelli become? I'm looking at his stars here. He's played 44 times. He's on £300,000 a week, so I'm assuming he's quite good. 178 current ability. Wow, look at those physicals. He can actually get better as well. He's 24. Did he ever win anything? Did he win, like, any awards? Milestones awards? He got fifth Pro Player of the Year runner-up in 2042. I kind of want him to see a best men's player 3rd place. He's up there. Did any of our players ever win the Ballon d'Or, by the way? I don't think we actually ever checked. Spinelli won it this year! Spinelli got Ballon d'Or this year! Get in! That's so cool. The most recent season, Paolo Spinelli at 32 was the Ballon d'Or winner. Oh, you do love to see it. Did we even get players in the top 3 before that? No. Lee Doherty won it, though. Of course he did. Bloody Lee Doherty, my nemesis there. That's so cool. I don't know why either. Is that really that? He got 29. Okay, I see why. 29 goals, 28 assists in that year. He's an assist machine. He actually got even... Wow. He got 28 goals, 24 assists. That was the year after. That's the first year of the simulation. Look at that for a season. He didn't win it that year. He won it for this one. Well, I suppose it's like a combination of the 2 seasons, isn't it? That's so cool though. That's really fun. All hail Paolo Spinelli is what I say at that stage. That's cool. And then maybe Campodelli will go and win it in the future, perhaps. What other players on here did we want to have a look at? How many goals did Campani end up at 31 years of age? He's got 354 in 494 games. He continued his goal scoring. Look, that's very cool to see. Anybody else that we really need to check in with? I'm not sure. D'Angelo's 34 now. He looks like he's really declined a little bit. What's his current ability? Oh, yeah, 97. He's really declined. I guess that's just not playing football. Pasqualini's still here. That's fun to see. I'll just check, actually. They didn't sign anyone, did they? I don't think they should have done. They let a couple of people go. Oh, they let Albanese go on a free to... He's quite good. I was going to say he was ready to play some games, I was saying before. He only got to 135, but that is a mistake to let him go, surely. Yeah, they didn't sign anyone. That's good because I didn't want them to go and ruin things for the save, but they didn't. So the way that I set up the responsibilities has worked. Roma, did he ever become good? 140, actually, yeah, he became good. He became the new left winger, I'm going to assume. Bruno, how good did he end up? About the same, to be honest. He reached his potential, didn't he, before this, but he became very good. I'm going to leave it there. This save is just incredible. And I could talk about it for hours and hours, like I've just talked about it for about an hour today. But like I say, if you want to go and dive into this on your own, I'll put the save file on the Patreon. The link to that is in the description down below. And I just want to end off again just by saying a big thank you. Thank you so much for being so invested and all of your interest in this save, making me think a video like this one, which is literally just looking at the save. It felt viable because you guys are clearly so invested in it. You're legends. Love you to bits. Thank you so much for watching. Next week, should we start a new adventure somewhere? I don't even know what it's going to be yet, but we'll have some fun, won't we? I'll see you in that one. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel and have a lovely rest of your day. See you soon. Bye-bye.